Okay, bad news first. Church attendance is in decline in America, and it has been for the past 10 years nationwide, and that is super scary if you think about it. But the good news is Jesus tells us exactly what we should do about it here in Matthew 28. Jesus' church is not in decline. I mean, the bride of Christ is as beautiful, glorious, miraculous as she's ever been. But what is in decline are things like attendance and even baptisms. Man, what are all these stats telling us? I don't think they're telling us that the church is all of a sudden bad or powerless or anything like that. No, but I think all these stats are telling us that we as the church are having a hard time getting non-Christians to come to us. But Jesus has something to say about that. He says it here in Matthew 28, "Go therefore and make disciples of all nations." So, we're here in this country thinking, man, it's hard to get non-Christians to come to us. And Jesus says, hey, go to them. The Great Commission has an upside and a downside. The upside is, it's very clear. I mean, Jesus is telling us exactly what he wants us to be working on. He says, go and make disciples. The downside is, what he's asking us to do is pretty hard, right? I mean, I struggle with the Great Commission. We do all these kind of good things. We're seeing a lot of fruit. Cool things are happening, but we just struggle with evangelism and discipleship. You know, I've thought that a bunch of times. But I think the reason we struggle with it is because it's just a really broad thing he's asking us to do. It's massive. The way I picture it is, the Great Commission is about as broad as the distance from the ground to the sky. The Great Commission has clouds and dirt. Look at this with me. In the clouds, Jesus says, go to all the nations. So, go to every people, every culture, every language, every country. Go to all the people. And that's about as big and as broad as church could ever be, right? But then down in the dirt, he says, and make disciples. And that's about as small and as down to earth as church could be. Because the only way to do it is the way Jesus was doing it. One person walking with another person, doing meals together, working together, doing life together, and just one person teaching another how to be more like Jesus. At Monochurch, we're going to spend all of our money, manpower, and resources either way up in the clouds or way down in the dirt of the Great Commission. And honestly, we're going to skip the middle part. The middle part are things like building buildings and throwing big events, and those aren't bad things, but we're going to skip those things for now. If things are working right up in the clouds, things are working right down the dirt, what do you get? You get something that looks like this, something we've all seen in nature many times. You get a water cycle. You get something that can spin and make rain and nourish the earth forever. And I think it's kind of cool that the same guy who invented the water cycle invented the Great Commission. I mean, Jesus was standing there the first time this clouds and dirt thing ever happened. So let's look at the middle part again. What is in between the clouds and the dirt? Well, it's the world we're trying to reach. And sometimes we try to borrow from the world to reach the world, but the danger there is that sometimes they end up borrowing us, right? Sometimes we end up hanging out in the world too long. So again, we're going to stick to the edges of the Great Commission, either the clouds or the dirt. But the order is important. It's going to start way down in the dirt with discipleship, with leaders, training leaders to train other leaders, to teach people to be more like Jesus. And we're going to do this part in homes, because homes are cheaper than big buildings, but they're also integrated into communities. I mean, there's 3,200 counties in America. I think we could have a disciple equipping church in a house in all of those counties. I mean, 3,200 churches. Why not? But it's got to go all the way to the clouds. The Great Commission does say, go and reach as many people as you can, and train other people to reach as many people as they can. So my question for you today is, how did Paul do the clouds part in his day? Well, clearly he did it on the internet, right? I'm sorry. So, there was this big innovation sweeping through the world Paul was living in. Do you know what it was? I was talking to one of our leaders about it, and they said, papyrus. No, I don't think it was papyrus. But the innovation in Paul's day was the Roman roads and the Roman post. Because Rome was going around building roads like cages around all these people they've conquered. So Paul's looking around, he's saying, whoa, free roads, free post. Let's send our messengers down the roads. Let's send our letters down the post. And so he used this innovation in the clouds to connect and catalyze this movement that was happening down in the dirt. The early church was two things: a spirit-empowered, viral movement of evangelism and discipleship happening way down in the dirt, in homes, in villages, shops, catacombs, and a spirit-empowered movement of evangelism and discipleship spreading broadly in the clouds across the whole known world. It was the clouds and the dirt. The roads were free to Paul, so he said, hey, we got to use these for mission. The internet's free to us, so let's use it. A really oversimplified telling of church history is Roman roads, printing press, internet. We already talked about the Roman roads part. Then 1,500 years later, another innovation comes along, the printing press. Then one generation after that, you get the Reformation. I think we're about to see a revival in our country as well. So here's my challenge to you. Paul looked at those roads and said, let's go. So this is my challenge to you today. A really easy way to remember the Great Commission is this: go together. Go to all the nations and make disciples. So let's do that right now. Let's go together.